This is my weekly video update on certain things here and there about microtransactions. Now, this article right here, it's about a couple years old, so as recording this date, about almost 4 years old. But this thing does still hold relevancy. So the whole entire thing about this thing is a comment. It's commenting on the senses of loot boxes virtual gambling, but it is not in terms of saying that the interpretation of it is that it's a comment. It's commenting on it. I'll the I'll tell you about the abstract here, so I'll just read it so you can understand it. So the video game industry has extended rapidly in recent years by impending by impen, impediment, implementing implementing a microtransaction business. I'm sorry, guys. Implementing a microtransaction business model and extending or expanding to a new market of mobile gaming. However, the introduction of loot boxes has been controversial. Similar to gambling, gamers pay real money for a randomized microtransaction for a chance to win a random virtual prize of perceived value. Additionally, the item won from these loot boxes, such as cosmetic skins, can potentially be used to bet on other games of chance or even on the outcomes of competitive esports games. I would say that is similar to commenting cosmetic skins don't give you an advantage, but there are some instances where this is the case. For me, is Fortnite. If anybody knows that there are certain skins in Fortnite that are bigger than the models and than the hit res models that they're supposed to be, so that you're not actually hitting where you're supposed to hit, so it doesn't really register. But to continue on, with the ease of online payments, the use of manipulative operant conditioning and exploitative advertisement, young gamers are subject to gambling tendencies. However, there is a global split between whether loot boxes under the definition of gambling. Countries around the world have responded in 4 different ways. 1, outright banning loot boxes. 2, regulating loot boxes in virtual ways. 3, investigating loot boxes further. And 4, not recognizing loot boxes as gambling and take no further action. This comment, as I said, seeks to challenge the global question of whether loot boxes are gambling, and instead ask whether the loot boxes are inducing the same effects of gambling on young children. Whether loot boxes fit under pre-existing gambling constructions, the effect on children are prevalent, trending a fine line between its government approach and respecting economic freedom. The United States should take steps to regulate loot boxes in a manner that will protect minors from the effects of gambling without crippling the gaming industry. Now, why is it so focused on minors? Well, similar to old people or people who, they have weak wills in terms of spending, because minors don't really exactly understand the value of money. So it's similar to the reason why something like Candy Crush is still one of the most well spent. I wouldn't say well spent. The most engrossed game. And I don't mean gross I mean gross in terms of how much money they make. A lot of people spend money to go ahead and get past that. But it's not exactly similar to loot boxes, but it's still a microtransaction payment. So there's a lot of dialect in this thing. I don't know if I am actually legally able to actually download this whole entire thing. I can download it. I can just go and save and download the thing. But I don't know if I can actually share it publicly without getting in trouble. So I'm pretty sure this person's still alive. They probably want go ahead and be like, no, I want this not to be published or something like that. But nonetheless, do you want to go and know the title of this? it is. Where did it go? Yeah, right here. This is the title. You have it here. This is the link. I don't know. I'm not going to put it in. I'm going to try and see if I can put it in the description. Make sure that you guys can possibly go ahead and request access for this. I don't know if you have to pay money for it, but nonetheless, that's how you do. So there are some sections here like this: microtransactions. Microtransactions is are a business model that engages, that has embedded within the gaming industry in recent years. Whether a typical free-to-play game offers in-game purchases that provide either one, competitive edge to a win-to-play environment, or two, cosmetic upgrade to models within the game. Now, most of us know that this right here, a competitive edge in a pay-to-win environment, that can be defined in certain ways. I would say pay-to-win in reality, in like real life, something like that, is for one of the games I like to play, Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is by definition kind of like a loot box. You get packs, go ahead and see if you can get good cards that you would need, or get really expensive cards that you can possibly sell for a higher price or more. Now, the one thing is that this can range from a lot of things, a lot of definitions, but it's something like that. But I see it's also cosmetic as well. I would put, I don't know if I don't know if this person could actually put a third one. That would be that it kind of is more of like gain over a grind, or like a XP wall. You know, I don't know if that can actually be defined in this comment, but nonetheless. But he does go ahead and mention something, which is here. The three elements that define gambling are consideration, chance, and price of value. Now, throughout my researches through microtransactions, the cases that are filed against with, or like regulations toward this, is the value. Like, one environment that does have an economy is CS:GO. Skins are won by loot boxes, so you can go ahead and it's random chance to really get something really good, or something that's worth considerably less than what you purchase for it. One thing it is the keys. That's what you purchase. You either purchase the keys or even purchase the loot boxes themselves to go ahead and possibly get a better chance. Another game that also does this is TF2, which is currently cosmetics, so you can go ahead and actually sell them. Usually it's hats, because that's one meme with it. But nonetheless, that is actually some of it. But let's read a little bit further. Simply, loot boxes can fall under this definition because consumers, also gamers, have to one, pay for loot boxes with real world money, that two, has random odds, or three, a random virtual prize. And that's one thing that I would like to go ahead and everybody understand. That is the one thing that you really people is a randomized chance. Now, loot boxes can come in many shape or forms. I don't know if any of you have watched my Diablo video, but loot boxes come in terms of gems in that game. Gems that heavily benefit you and also heavily benefit the team that you're playing on. Because I didn't really go into depth into the actual Diablo thing, but gems in that game benefit more if you have more people in your team. And so it created this ultra toxic environment. It's like, if you don't have these gems with you, you are not allowed to be in the team because you would just be a waste of space for someone who potentially could have the gem similar to them, so that they all gain the benefit, and it will be very worth more than what they bargained for in their eyes. But there is a lot of context. There's a lot of things here, like developers intentionally induce psychological addiction, and that is a quite a bold statement. In terms of like developers want you to be addicted to the game. I do believe that. I think as a gamer that does make sense. You want your players to be addicted to your game. Want to be having. They want them to actually put their life into the game, because then that means that one, that'll be good for publicity, because then they'll be like, oh, look how much people are playing the game. People love it. But in terms of this can also create an addiction. I don't know if you guys, I don't know if anybody ever remembers, but there was the gaming addiction, or the online gaming addiction, um, disease that was actually, or disorder, I would say, that was passed by the health. I think it was the health industry, not health industry, but by people who go ahead and register there's a new disorder, new disease, something like that. Now, the one thing that I would like to very much want to tell you guys is that do not be worried if you play video games that you fall under this description. No, these are for extreme cases. Okay, extreme cases. This is where people who go ahead and just outright want to play their video game from day to night, day to night, day to night. With it, every waking moment that they play is playing a video game. They, disregard mental health, their physical health especially. They just pour all their money into the game, pour everything into the game. And this is because of certain addictions. And these addictions are going to be created because of something like this, like loot boxes. As like similar to a slot machine, everything lights up bright, so bright colors. It's like, whoa, look all this. So I would say really do go ahead and understand that you need to not fall under this trap. Not do not go ahead and just be like, oh, it's just loot box spender here. No, 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 no. Do understand that even though you only spend like $2, $10 on the game, make sure you only spend at least amount, only what you need. Okay, and that need needs to be regulated by you and whatever type of mental barrier blocks you can create. Do not fall under. So, enough of that rant. We shall go a little bit more further. I'm gonna go slow there, so it's something like that. Now, this is one thing that's interesting. Now, I know I said I used this for my research paper, but I never really went in depth because I only looked at certain things here. But this thing caught my eye. This practice is exploitive of its consumers, and there is one thing in this thing that a lot of people know is the whales. Now, what are whales, right? What are whales? Sorry about the mic thing. But whales are people who spend heaps amount of money. Heaps amount of it. This would be people who are usually rich or like have a lot of expensive money. Be like, okay, I'm gonna spend all this. For Magic the Gathering, we label this as the rich boy effect, where he just buys up everything looks cool, everything looks cool. It's like, oh, I want all this, want all this, and this can be go ahead done with players, and usually this is, as you can see, when free-to-play game developers structure their products around pulling the most vulnerable players to generate a large percentage of their revenue. The controversial freedom that's a hard word to say for me. Freedom business model becomes extremely exploitive and unethical. Entrapment in games designed to induce addictions. People who spend enormous amounts of money on free-to-play games are known within the business as whales. These whales love to spend, love it. It's like one thing that they just can't seem to get without. So, it's one thing that you gotta really watch out for. Don't want to become a whale. Don't want to become a whale. Now this goes into that. Aha. Now this is one thing that I mentioned about CS:GO, skin betting. Now, pretty sure these things gonna go ahead and think, and this is kind of where the things of value, as it says right about here. So, in CS:GO, there are certain skins that you can purchase here and there, and yada yada, that do actually have a value because of their rarity, and the rarity comes to like multiple conditions. It's similar to like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. Each card has its own value, whether that be 0.001% 1 pence or something like that, or half a penny, to thousands of dollars. I don't know if any of you ever realized CSGO had a wild gambling sort of incident where there were skins that were worth thousands and thousands of bucks, like to unprecedented levels, and people would just buy these skins. And luckily, Steam did go ahead, step in, but like this kind of a lot, because there was a entire fiasco with another website that I could go into, which is technically a gambling website. which I don't know if it works under loot boxes, but it's similar to that because you bet skins, yada yada. But if you want to know what it is, it's called CS:GO Lotto. You can look that on YouTube. Look up CS:GO Lotto conspiracy or controversy, wherever. But it was pretty bad when people found out what happened, what was really going on that website. But this is similar to that. Yep, as you can see, 2016, it was estimated that 7 billion US dollars worth of skins were wagered worldwide, as opposed to 550 million US dollars for cash wagers. However, some third-party websites also allow these skins to be sold back for real-world money. So some people engage in skin betting to convert virtual items into real currency. In an extreme form, popular YouTube gambling personalities misled viewers by promoting a skin betting website without disclosing that they owned it. Wow, they took the words out of my mouth. And this is where one of the instances of CSGO Lotto, and this is where a really, really big incident happened that I could possibly go into. I mean, I could go ahead and react to a video about it, but that'll be for another time. But we shall go ahead and go to another one. How has the world responded to loot boxes? The loot box phenomenon has hit the world with gamers, parents, legislators, and game developers alike asking one question: are loot boxes gambling? Each state or province has its own gambling regulation body and determines its own course of action to address this question. Throughout the world, the minimum age for gambling typically ranges from the ages of 18 to 25. And in some countries, gambling is outright illegal, such as the United Arab Emirates, or only legal number specific circumstances, such as Korea. In 2017, the average gamer was 35 years old, but children under 18 accounted for 29% of the world's gambling population. Ooh, that's something experiencing. Ooh. Exposing the youth in a I can't say that. I can't say it. With a minimum age of 18. The effects of microtransactions have only been getting more and more apparent, and countries have responded largely in 4 different ways. As the person said before: 1, not recognizing loot boxes as gambling; 2, outright banning loot boxes; 3, regulating loot boxes in different various ways; and investigating loot boxes further. Now, as I said, this person is going to say the positives and negatives of loot boxes, and so far it's been a lot of negatives because there have been ties to that even the gambling population had almost 1/3 of it being children or minors. Not gambling. Now this is an interesting one. Many countries regulating bodies and game developers have recognized that loot boxes controversy. Recognized loot box controversy, but determined that from a legal standpoint, loot boxes aren't gambling. With near ideal rationality, the United Kingdom's Gambling Commission, France's ARJEL, and New Zealand's Gambling Complaint Office have concluded that loot boxes do not qualify as a form of gambling. The UK Gambling Commission ultimately determined that the inavailability to convert virtual currency to real currency precludes loot boxes from being defined as licensed gambling activity. Similarly, ARJEL dismisses the argument that loot boxes do not quantify as gambling for 2 main reasons. There is always a prize, and the item obtained has no real-world value. But of course, as we have found out, this can go and be countered with the website that actually converts it into that. But that does bring the argument. There is usually a prize. That's the one thing that it's like similar to gambling. But the one thing you can also go ahead and say is, well, what about lottery machines? You know, the one where you pull the stick and you go ahead and do that? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know if every casino has a similar thing, but I don't know if, like, every time you go ahead and, like, let's say not land on 3 of them, that you don't get a prize at all. I don't know if like you have to like, actually follow the list. Like, it'll say you have to these things to get like a prize or like get amount of money back. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know. I have never really researched into that thing. But let's go and continue with this. New Zealand's Gambling Commission Office bases its terms that loot boxes do not meet the legal definition of gambling per its Gambling Action of 2003, based on the fact that gamers do not purchase loot boxes seeking to win money or something that can be converted into money. The common theme among the decisions in loot boxes are exclusive as gambling because of their inability to provide gamers with real world monetary prizes. And that's the one main argument, as he said, is that there's no real world money involved. But the prize that usually can go ahead and do is that, but the one thing that's that with loot boxes, that is kind of the intention. Now, I will argue that it is gambling because one, you are gambling your money to get a random prize that you can sell for money. You may not think that's like, oh no, it doesn't have any real world money, but people do still sell the items, even at like the most like lowest cost items still do get sold. I have sold a couple CS:GO skins that were worth pennies, but still someone purchased them. And so it's just the one thing that's like, well, what about them selling the item? They might not get a real world item like real world cash from it instantly when they open the loot box, but they still do go ahead and sell the items, whether that be in bundles or something. So it's quite much the argument of like where you want to go. So let's go and continue. Although these countries have confirmed the legality of loot boxes, it does not mean that loot boxes are of no concern. The UK Gambling Office's Young People and Gambling 2018 report have found that 31% of its participants have opened a loot box, and 3% of them have bet with in-game items, drawing inferences of possible early addictions. On the other hand, ARJEL's 2017-2018 activity report has concerned with the near miss aspect of loot boxes, drawing a strong parallel to the various response rates of slot machines. However, the UK, or the United Kingdom, has wagered that relevant regulation bodies will eventually self-regulate and speak to the industry to ensure that those who purchase and play video games are informed and protected. Now, here is one thing that I would say that really is not good. It's not going to happen for a while, mainly because there aren't high-profile cases. Now, as I said, there is one case where it's with like CS:GO Lotto or similar CS:GO gambling websites. There has to be more cases to prove that that it is the case. But the one thing is that every case presented makes the industry more smart how to go ahead and regulate it. Well, in terms of case of how you're going to go ahead and look at it. But continue on. Let's go and look a little more into here. Now, these are some regulations. You got Japan. I think there's a couple others. South Korea. China. Okay, illegal gambling. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Now, Netherlands, Australia, other stakeholders. What sections should... Okay, let's go and talk about this one. What actions should the United States take? In the U.S., advocates from 6 different states have taken early action in 2018. Washington, Hawaii, California, New York, Michigan, and India. Now, here is the one thing that I would like to say. I live in Hawaii. That is an actual real thing. There was a senator that actually wanted to go ahead and I don't know if it was, I think it was a senator who wanted to take action against loot boxes because my memory on it is vague, but I think it has something to do with like how his children went ahead and were subjected to it. But let's continue. Washington State Senator Kevin Ranker introduced a bill into the legislature to highlight three major concerns. One, whether loot box mechanics contribute to gambling under Washington law. Two, whether loot box mechanics belong in video games and apps. And three, whether minors should have easy access to games and apps that feature loot boxes. Recognizing that consumer protection is virtual when loot boxes are specifically designed to exploit and manipulate the addictive nature of human psychology. Advocates in Hawaii, California, New York, Michigan, and Indonesia. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, but it just looks like India, have introduced bills that call for one, prohibition of sales of video games with loot box mechanics to minors. Two, requirement of warning labels specific to microtransactions, and /or three, enclosure or disclosure of the odds of the potential prizes. Disclosure what is meant by that? Mainly means that, to say, hey, this is your percentage, this is how much so what's the percentage chance. Sorry. In May 2019, Senator Josh Holloway of Michigan announced the introduction of landmark legislation to protect children of abusive game acts. This bill, if passed, would effectively prohibit both loot boxes and pay-to-win game environments in games targeting those under the age of 18. Now, let's go ahead and look up this thing real quick. There we go. Act. Let's see. It doesn't seem there's much here. Don't know how that's related. Yes, potentially. What is okay, it doesn't seem like either passed or wasn't, but I shall look into it at another time. Now, there is a lot more in here that's going to take a whole long video to go and do. So, I'm going to go ahead and make this into a two-parter. Yay, two-parter. But yes, I will talk to you guys another time. But right now, thank you for watching, and I hope that you comment and subscribe. Peace on the streets.